I think it goes without saying that we have some type of connection. I mean, you're born on the same
The
day as Morgan. Oh, shit. All right, let me
parallel
see.
Kenny.
Um, God, when's the last time we got together? Shit.
Uh, 2 years maybe.
Um, well, I went off the reservation in March of 24. Wait, is that right? No. Yes. No. I went off, I stopped doing shows about May of 23. I did like 20 a month, you know, and then I stopped. And then, reunited with Morgan and
Mm.
all and uh all that entails, but at the same time, it entails everything that we're all going through collectively.
Hmm.
Yet it's all
Hmm.
about us. Okay, we're live. Let me this is our 18th episode. Um so dear sister, dear friend of mine, Alisha Braché. And yeah, these last couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks have been really wild. Morgan got very ill. Um, and collectively, as time goes by, it seems to all be weaving together, which is mostly coming from her, as it's all sinking in, which is cool. But I'm feeling it too. And I went into this space of start a new podcast, because all those parts of us died. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
didn't they?
Todd and
Everything.
Todd Sology's association with Todd died. But and I was trying to figure out how do I what is it? Well, first of all, it's the episode number and the person's name. So the show is their name, them. And
Mm.
and then as time's gone on through these 17 episodes, um, it's like a space. It's not really an agenda or anything. It's like a meet me in the space. So let me tie it all together. So I went out today to go to a few different shops and grab some things for the house and take my time and listen to some music. And I had to turn the music off. I sat out at the beach. I had to turn it off. I was going to do a spirit walk and I couldn't. All I could do was hold the camera to the ocean, the silence, the pause, whatever. And then as I was coming back, I was almost home, ran around, did everything I had to do. And I thought, well, what is this that I'm feeling? It's not sadness. It's like, but there's something, I don't mean grave like in a bad way, but so deep. I mean, so deep. And I stopped and had a cigarette, bad light worker. And and I think I had sent you a message on the fly. I reached out to like two people and that was it. And then, whatever. And then you hit me up. And I'm like, you want to go on? And you're like, when? I'm like, as soon as possible. I'm so raw. And you're like, me too. Or you said it. And I said, yeah. And I think, well, I feel like that this space that you're here with me today in, and we've been here before, you've shared so much with us. Um, this is it. Like, this is where we get the code. And,
Yeah.
so I just want to say thank you very much. And it's good to see you. It's good to feel your energy. And I popped in, you know, on social media about maybe 6 weeks ago, and I saw, what you were doing and, what's been going on. But yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank thank you, Todd. And I think you just summed it up really well. The rawness of the last few weeks is inconceivable to my human experience right now. And just in the last handful of days has been so earth shattering on so many levels. And it will be a miracle if we get through this and I don't have black running everywhere.
I'll have
And
snot running out my nose. If you go there, I'm going to go there.
and last night was the first night that I was like, when you like everything in your world just completely gets torn apart.
Yes, I think they call that ascension. No, I totally get that. Yeah. And I believe a lot of people will get that
Mm,
right now as they hear it.
yeah, yeah, it's more than me, and that's why when you messaged me, I was like, I'm in the messiest place I've ever been in my life. But sitting here talking to you, Todd, is the only place I want to be right now. So thank you for having that hunch and reaching out and just providing this space right now. It's I want to say it's healing, but it's not that. It is authentic. It's connecting, and it's whatever's going to come through. I have no idea,
Mhm.
but it feels palpable. Um, right now, all I can feel is like this earth-shattering changes that's just rippling through my life and so many people that I know. And in conjunction with your message when I woke up this morning, and I was like, let's just do this. I've had my phone blow up with everyone going, what is going on? What is happening? So here we are.
Yeah. So that sounds like Morgan, because something will happen. She'll pick up something. You guys are born on the same day. The frequency's feminine, and over a few days, people will, or friends of hers will start to say, "What the fuck's happening?" And then they put it all together. But well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many places to start. We certainly want to come back to this present moment. Um, but I'm wondering off the top of my head, do you feel like, and I know I probably asked you this before, but I mean this in a way I've never meant it before. Do you feel like 2025 we stepped into something, or on or about, January 1st, whatever, that's a whole different thing? Like everything's gone. Every single thing is gone.
Yeah. And I could feel it coming in before we stepped into it. Because I don't know about you, Todd, but I feel like I've been parked on the bench and sidelined for most of last year. Um, and I just, as we were gearing into 2025, I was like, this is the next level of un, unknown. Um, but I just kept getting the word you've got to be prepared. Like you've got to be prepared. And I think one thing that stands I just realized my microphone's not connected, so I hope you can hear me okay.
We've been hearing you
Um,
fine.
okay, I'll leave it then. Um, it has it's very different. It's not the same. But as we embarked on and entered into 2020, and there was a palpable shift that everyone recognized. And then in hindsight, looking back and all the conversations that I've had since then, the amount of people that came to me through various means and said to me, to the effect of, when I woke up, when my life turned upside down, like 2020 was such a pivotal turning point for so many, for different reasons, different ways. And I felt like as we were moving into 2025, it was going to be one of those catalytic years of um, change that we can't even perceive yet, that will be looked back on, and I will hear in years to come, remember 2025 and, fill in the blanks. But this feels deeply personal as it is collective, and it's always interwoven and interconnected. But we're in a whole new game right now. Like, um, we're in
Yeah,
uncharted territory. It feels to me it's beyond what my human can comprehend right now. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, I think that's the point. I hear a lot of people talking about surrender and letting go like never before, including myself, um,
Hmm.
to describe the indescribable. But yeah, like trying to understand it, trying to explain it isn't going to happen. And I was thinking about this when I was walking today. I was thinking about the energy and how different it is. And I went to Morgan and I, which is, like the central part of my and in our and I don't mean like by the old standards. I mean like in our lovemaking, you might say, which could be
Hmm.
laying in the bed and talking and kissing, just kissing like teenagers. And there's this point, and she'll pull back and pause. And then all this coding and information comes in. And I feel like that is what's happening. The more we pause, it's unexplainable. You can't tell, it's just there's something about it. And and I think it's becoming part of our life. So you're like, okay, that's great. How do I be a human being? And the world's all crazy, and how do you make a living and this and that? And and you have all the energies and the intel telling you, be in the flow, blah blah blah, all the stuff that sounds really good and all this stuff that you got to figure out. Um, but it's this. It's this with myself, it's this with my partner, it's this with my friend, it's this present state. But to tie that all up, over the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, we've had a very intense scenario that paralleled and followed the collective energies. It's becoming more apparent now. And when you're in something like that, in the old days, that's as far as we could see. But now we can see both. And so very, very serious things, say of a physical nature or otherwise, um, become a whole different experience. And it's quite numbing, I think. And I mean, I'm living with the love of my lives. And there's like you can feel it. It's it's it doesn't make any sense. Um, but it seems to be happening, and I don't understand it. I don't know anything. I really don't.
Yeah, big unknown, big unknown. How is Morgan?
She's improving very well. Um, but it was pretty serious about 3 weeks ago. Um, and the crazy thing, as this is unveiled, many people, both publicly and personally, in the circles close to her or me even, um, people are going through some major stuff in the body, like major stuff. And we were just having a conversation when I told her we are going to go on, and she's doing some work. And I won't go too deep with it. It's on her page, but I said to her, I said, when we put our hands together at night and you start channeling, and then all of our teams come in and they start talking, what if we connected to the body's consciousness and voice itself? Is that where we're at? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah,
Because I don't
the
know.
yeah, that that's been a big I guess, theme for me, especially in the last few weeks, is it, if we're taking into comparison all the other years and where we've been and where we're at, it's very physical now. It's very earth. It's very body. It's all the we're integrating into the full human experience, and that's not an easy task. Um, and that's going to look, different for a lot of people. I know, I don't know when Morgan got sick, but I just lost another beloved fur baby, which was, it was about the physical, the death, and I know that I wrote a post about this transition portal that was occurring that I could perceive at that time. And there's just vast amounts of light that are coming in that is almost unmeasurable or not even being able to perceive, but it's rattling things up on the deepest cellular level, Um, it's really down to the body. And I know as soon as we stepped into January, the changes that are happening within my physical body and structure, I don't have words for. I
Mm.
don't have words for. My heart goes out to Morgan. I hope that she's, being
Well,
able to rest.
she's really come back in the last 3 or 4 days. Um, but I think the biggest toll's been on the body, and then also the collective information she's pulling in, and that's becoming more obvious even through other streams, is that there's something major going on in the body. I've had it going on with my lower back, which has been chronic since I was 30. And there's amazing things happening to my body. I'm like, is this happening? Am I becoming more limber? Is the compression being released? It certainly feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and other people uh, that I've come across, I mean, as an example, would be particularly things that they've had for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you think about the things that have ailed us, I'll use myself as an example, my back, my lower back from 30. Um, what the hell's in there? What
Yeah,
in the hell
right.
is that? And with everything that's happened over the last 2 months, maybe 2 to 3 months, with Morgan and with what's been happening inside of me, it feels like a decompression and things are starting to flow. Um, but at the same time, my human's going, man, that doesn't feel right when my back pops like that. I might wake up, in a wheelchair. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, she's doing good. Thank you. And I'm sorry to hear about your soul, your
Mm.
friend. Um, and that seems to be a big part of what's happening. I think you mentioned it before we came on, but not to get stuck on the human definitions of vernacular, but death.
Mm.
Um, I mean, just looking at you, I don't have to ask you, but I will. Have you died a lot? Even now, with all that light you're talking about, and we can all relate to, have you died a lot, even in the last, what, month and 9 days?
26 times. Mm. Yeah. It's my experience hasn't been so much like Morgan's, although I did get the message as we were entering into this year that I had to prepare my body. Um, the message was prepare your body for what's to come. And I know when I get that message, if I don't pay attention, I get very, very sick. And I've been through um, those sickness tests of initiations, which I can speak to on the other side, it is such a refinement and the ability and the code and the frequency that comes through once you come out the other side of what can be presented as almost verging on physical death, or the body shutting down and then bouncing back. Um, so I know that's been a really big theme, and I think that interweaves to what I've been seeing in the energetics of what's happening in people's structures. It feels like the death of so many versions or timelines. And I literally feel like every night I go to sleep and there's another death of an aspect of myself that's no longer required. And yeah, it's wild. It's raw.
Are some of those aspects, for lack of a better term, identities you or me or any of us have picked up since we woke up, or since
Yeah,
we or since we figured out that everybody's on the same vibe here, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been a death and an identity crisis, and like all the things that were relevant for so long just don't have any meaning, don't have any relevance. And it's an interesting plane to navigate, because it's like on the one hand there's this internal burning desire and knowing that everything is going to change, the way that we've done things, the energy work, the practices, like the modalities, like every aspect. I feel like every aspect of what we've been embarking on this ascension pathway is about to do a whole flip.
Yeah. Yeah, like um we did our shadow work and face the things that we needed to face. You know what I mean? Um, but this is different. There's something different about this. To do those things that were with us all our life or in our historical context, um, yeah, you can go, yeah, that's gone. I don't need that anymore. You know what I mean? But to make no distinction between those perspectives or identities you picked up for yourself since 2012, let's just say, in your purpose, in your offering, you know what I mean, in your passion and service. And then they're told, then you're
Yeah.
told those are gone too. And I've gone through that with Sology. And like everything else, I've gone through it with Morgan. I mean, we're a couple. I mean, 10 years.
Mm.
I mean, I think we've been living, all of us have been living in multidimensional reality the whole time, really. And and the force that it's coming in with since, on or about January 1st is absolutely unfathomable. I don't think we could have thought it up on December 25th. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to be where I am, and I'm happy to be getting on these shows and being nervous like I've never done it before. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, because there's something about this space, and it's not an easy space. Um, or at least it didn't used to be. But I think we can do it as we keep entering that space together, without judgment. And I mean, that's what I got today. It was like, you know what? It was my human as I was
Mm.
walking. It was like, I'm tired of being judged.
Yeah.
So somehow or another, my dialogue went to that. My monologue went to that. Like it was probably based on like, what am I going to do? Is why even do these shows or why do a spirit walk? It was that whole thing about You know what I mean? Like, who do you think you are? But then it got to that point, and I said, as the teenager or the wounded human or whatever, I said, uh, I don't want to. I'm tired of being judged. And then I heard, then stop judging.
Yeah.
And I'm like, motherfucker, was it that easy? But yeah, and that's the way this intel seems to be coming in. It's very fast. And the thing with the body, I think, is a very serious um, part of it, because what's left after that? If
Mm.
we have flow in our biological body, um, we'll be having me, you, and Morgan, and whoever you're bringing. We'll be having a lunch on the French Riviera tomorrow because we can teleport.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I feel is building. I can interpret the body stuff just based on what I've seen in the energetics that is happening within myself when I tune in. What I see in others is almost an internal, like, we talk about the grids and everything. Our body has this grid system of light, force, energy, and it's almost been completely switched off and reset and rebooted. That's why I love the background that you've chosen, because I see it in that, you know, in that way. And it can only begin to understand the purpose of that and what that truly means, and I mean, you and I have been talking about this bilocation teleportation for years now. But, I think you and I have something in common, and Morgan and many of us is we're a little ahead of our time.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But I do agree with you. I look back, in the midst of my very raw human despair right now, and I'm going through so many layers of personal grief and heartache. Um, I go out for my walk. My walking is my saving grace right now. And just like dialoguing, like you do, dialoguing, like, what? What?
you know, you know,
What?
oh, it's good to laugh. Oh my God, that's funny. Um, it was like 2 days ago. I had to have that moment for 15, 20 minutes because I'm like a 75-second walk to the beach. I just come right out. I'm there. And what happened? Oh, I went over there. I went over there and I pulled a cigarette out, and I'm at the beach here. Now there's a wall behind me that's like a condo, and I lit a cigarette. And this is me trying to get my shit together. Like, I literally walked out there and said, Mother Goddess, Father Son, I'm like, okay, let's connect. And I had some music in my ears, an instrumental, and all of a sudden this lady walked up to me and started like doing a Karen. Yeah, this is, but at the same time, I'm at this high frequency level, understanding that this is what this is what I ordered, so to speak. And so I took my earbud off and I said, "Excuse me, what?" And she said, "Those people are complaining about you because you're smoking and they can't breathe." And I was on the beach with the wind blowing, and you know what I mean? And I thought, "Oh my God." I looked at her and I said, "Okay, no problem." And as I was walking away, I thought, "Oh my God, it's that simple." Just like what happened today, which was I'm tired of being judged. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'll go do whatever I want to do. I'm tired of being. And then I heard, well, then stop judging. And that's, to me, like, if somebody said to me, "How can you bring this down to one thing?" I don't know. But if I had to put a word out there, it would be that. It would be it would be no judgment. And I'm not saying I'm there, but it makes me feel really, really like flowy or like energetics of like the Kundalini or whatever, the chi. I can feel it. It's not going top to bottom. Don't get me wrong, but it's the same thing I feel when we re-enter, I should say, re-enter the space that you and I have together on, on the collaborations we've done and other people do all day long, every day. We brought that with us and it's still here. And I think we can stay a little longer now.
Sure, sure. Interesting, this word you keep referring back to in terms of judgment. I don't want to be judgment, final judgment, and big topic for me right now is people going through very harsh conditions and situations and circumstances around justice and injustice and in all different ways. And that's been a theme for me to like, if I can come back and center myself and really, I can feel this burning fire that's starting to ignite within me. And it's like, I just want to be able to reign truth and justice. There has to be this higher level, because when you look at the suffering and all the craziness that's going on in the world, and sometimes you can feel so powerless to make, actual change. But I can feel that there's something connected with that is brewing, perhaps rippling through the collective, is bringing true justice, true truth, and igniting that. And even just the power of the word and the intention behind it feels like there's something simmering. There's something simmering.
Yeah. God, it's so incredible too, because and we've all done it before and we've done it. There's less obstruction now, which we got to give ourselves some credit. But what comes in beyond the words, you know what I mean? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting, I don't know how you would put it, like my light body's getting it before my human brain gets it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But yeah,
exactly.
um, yeah, and it's like I don't know. It's either one way or the other, right? I mean, I I don't struggle so much now, really, very, very little when it comes to the bullshit. You know what I mean? That's out there. Um, because I look at it and I say, you know what? If I'm gonna die, let me die at the highest frequency I can be at, living with integrity, living, in a conscious, expanding intention. Um, and I think what I feel is just like everything else, just like we were the smallest part of this whole thing that we thought. It's in that minuscule little, Morgan talks about the original seed atom, how
Mm.
the first physicality comes from that. You know what I mean? That. And not only is it us, but it is our most personal, transparent, vulnerable. This is 360-degree heart opening
Mm.
with the experience of the human condition. It's beautiful. And when I listened to you, I was like, oh my God, she gets it. And what I said earlier about I'm not sad, but you know how when you're sad or the bottom just drops out and it's like going over a hill on a roller coaster and your stomach drops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It feels like that. But at the same time, I hear what you're saying. Morgan and I are experiencing it. We know it's happening. We know it's going like this. But why does it keep feeling like the bottom's dropped out? They're not in a bad way. It's just a weird feeling.
Yeah,
So you've gone through a lot,
mm,
you know?
yeah, yeah. You know, the irony of it, and I have to laugh about the cosmic joke of it all. I was looking back through my notes. I went through a very elevated experience 12 months ago, Todd, where it felt like I had merged into what we have all been working towards and really tangibly experiencing the new Earth reality in real time
When was this?
12 months ago.
Wow.
And this experience lasted for many months, but it was an isolated experience. And when I say that, it was like I was experiencing it, but many people weren't. And I wrote extensive notes about it all. And I haven't, after that, I got switched off and sidelined. And I've been idling, and I've just, in the last few weeks, through all the unforeseen experiences and events that have been huge catalysts in my life, and for those that I truly love, it's like there's this reigniting purpose and passion, and my whole focus and trajectory has just gone this like, wow, I didn't, I've been feeling this for a long time, like I was just at this precipice of new beginning, something totally different, and that's just come through like a wrecking ball in my life, and I was like, wow, I didn't see that one. And the irony of it is like I go back to my notes because I always like to go back to what I've reflected on, what I've experienced, what I've written, and see the data and the code, because I think I have this capacity. God knows where it comes from, but I jump, you know, so far into the future timeline and then get pulled back, and it's like this disorienting, like sling ping pong effect. And yesterday, well, actually, it would be today because I'm in the future.
Yeah.
Was like the pinnacle peak of it, and I wrote it all down of everything that was like being expressed through me and everything that was stepping through. And 12 months later, I couldn't be at a more opposite polarized experience. Like,
I'm reminded in our communion, Morgan and I don't know how many times it's come up, but it came up, I want to say, right before all this shit went down about a month ago. And it was a pole shift.
mm, mm-hmm, yeah,
Now, listening to you and reflecting on that, I'm going, you know, solar flash is going to happen. Boom. I'm not saying it to make fun
mm,
of it. I'm saying
mm.
the instantaneous aspect of it, basically. Pole shifts have been talked about in many different quarters for a long time, and there's some pretty good evidence that it happens on the Earth. But is that what this is, or did we did we come out on one end of the of the 0 point and go to the extreme, and then it shifts? And now we got to work our way back, but we're in the inverse energy field that we were uh before, which was distortion and duality and all that shit.
That's what it feels like.
I don't know why I went off on that, but I saw the vision.
Yeah, no, there's a lot I can speak to around that. And, I was saying before, I was reminded because I do tend to keep like meticulous notes about things I know are really important. And there is this key marker timeline that I know exists. Like I experienced it. It's so real. And I know that it's like how do I put this? I believe I was gifted that experience to work towards that in every time in my life I've ever before I was about to go through like trial by fire and like hardcore, path of the human experience, I've always been given a peak moment of insight into beyond. It's almost like you jump forward and then, you come back and then you've got to work your way back to it. And as I was walking this morning, you can't make this up. Like three things from a prominent dream that reminded me of that vision just simultaneously appeared one by one. Boom, boom,
Mm,
boom. And so in the depths of my despair and power walking with my headphones on and just,
mm.
the tears and you look up and you see that and you're like, yeah, okay, you're all right. But the pole shifting thing, I remember getting intel back in, it was 2021, and it was all about the masculine, the feminine, the flipping of the poles and the transmutation and like this spontaneous kind of flipping of the inverted back to its rightful position. And I'm completely honoring the fact that right now I feel like I'm in the upside down version, you know, totally honor. I mean, in just what has transpired in my personal life just in the last few days and the shock and the devastation. And I woke up on Friday morning, which was a significant and celebratory day for me. And there was this excitement leading into it because there was a point that was going to make a decision of which way things were going to go. And it went in the opposite direction. And I remember waking up Friday morning and I had the reminder of what that day represented and the fact that the high, let's say the higher expression was not. And I got up and I was like, did I just wake up in some hell realm? Like, what, what is this? So since that moment, I've been working through so many levels of emotion and trying to find meaning. And what has come through is that sometimes I have to be ripped completely bare.
A stubborn human makes a stubborn soul. I think everyone can relate to this. Thank you for sharing. Keep going.
Um, yeah, I feel like I do my greatest work in the greatest darkness and despair. And I was like, I think I really need to rewrite that script, but up until I have such a stubborn, and I know that I'm being catapulted to move further than I ever have done before. And there is, through that, I have an ability to, I guess, go through this alchemization process because I've gone through it so many times before. But this one feels like it, and every time you hit a new point, I'm like, oh, my entire life has been building me for this point. Jesus.
uh,
But, I've spent the entire last couple of days just uh, an emotional mess and the anger and the rage and the injustice and all of the emotions. I've actually come back to myself, whereas I'd been walking through such a numb haze. for such a
Mm.
long period of time that I was like, I'm not diminishing the amount of suffering that it's created in the ripple effect of those involved. And I do believe that justice will be served in that circumstance. I know that. But I it's almost it's poked the bear in me. And I feel like I'm now on this whole new trajectory as a part of what I do. It won't be the sole part, but it's
Be careful.
yeah.
Be careful. You
But
said
I feel like
something. You said something because for me, there's not one thing you can say to describe what the hell's going on. I mean, you're opening with us right now and you're laughing and crying
mm,
because you're actually presenting both ends of the experience. But you said something and I feel it should be said again because I can relate to it. I believe a lot of people can. And listening to you, it made me understand how to say what I'm going to say, which is we we all answer the call. Now, we're not saying that we're better than anyone else, but there is a neighborhood, there is a community, call it whatever you want to, crazy people, whatever you want to call it, that has the same pedigree and has ended up in the same place. And a lot of that has had to do with service. And we talked about this a little earlier. So when you said what you said, I realized, oh, there it is. This is part of what's occurring. And that is, we don't have to try so hard. We really don't. I mean, we put stuff out there. You're a creator. I mean, I've seen your work. It's a lot of work. It's a
mm,
lot of work. And many of us in our own different ways, practitioners for sure. I mean, but something's it's not just um the atmosphere that's totally new. But
no.
it's the tools that it brings, which we have some innateness, uh, recollection or memory of, or instinct.
Mm.
But it's a brand new game too, because I mean, I'm talking to somebody who has had as deep galactic experiences as anyone I know, including Franco de Nicola, Morgan, me, etc., who had that aspect of the you, me, we, and it say to you, it's going to be okay. And you said, what about my emotional well-being? Oh, we didn't think of that. That's code. When we interact with those aspects that can't relate, so to speak, to what we're doing, they figure out two things. One, we're not so dumb. We're still part of them. And we have something to offer. So when you say what you said, about, I guess in a way, like, um, slowing down, no force, no pressure, and somehow or another the the chatter of, well, how are you going to pay your bills and all that is fading.
Mm.
Um, I like to think that I've done a really great job of learning energy and how to create abundance and flow and unilateral, you know what I mean? But your sister, to me, what I've seen as we've come to Mexico, and it's a whole different paradigm change, and you've got all this, the human stuff to how you're going to do this and that, whatever, um, doesn't seem, I bounce around more than she does. And I think that might be a galactic quality where, no, seriously, where, um, I don't know. I mean, even though I might be calm and cool and collected, there's still an up and down thing going with me. And I'm not saying it's not with someone like you or her. I'm just saying that what I've seen is this presence, especially now after the last 2 or 3 weeks, of acceptance, of letting go, and as we discussed earlier, it's showing up in the body now, and I don't know whether the voice of the body ever starts talking to us directly in English or not. It's speaking extremely loud right now.
I will say this time,
Hmm.
whatever paradigm shattering shift we're in, whether it's the poles, the flash, whatever, there's so many different names. I've been made aware from the galactics, from my team, from my higher self, over and over again. The body will go through such a state of metamorphosis that you need to have the body prepared for what is to come. And I remember waking up
Now,
in 2021, I think it was August, and it said, to the effect of like the flash is preparing you on all levels, but you have to clear out your body. Like your body is the one that is going through this metamorphosis. And sorry, I don't have the language, but it feels like this is the year of maybe not for everyone, but for some that are really going to be in an activated light body state in very human ways, not just how we've described it in the past, but this is like transforming the human at the physical level is where I feel that we're at right now.
boom. Do you feel like if you take a situation like my lower back, which isn't near at the level of potential fatality that a lot of people are dealing with, some really deep stuff, like my partner was and is coming back, strong. And I think I'm seeing a living example of what you're talking about or where we're headed, which is to my question. We've talked about clearing the chakras, and we went all the way down to the root, and that's the root, and that's the deepest part, and we know all that. And in the energetic field, in the imagination, in the thought process, we've done that. And now it's in the body. So my question is, what you're speaking of, I can really feel. And I was going to say, do you have a timetable on that? but but because your sister said the same thing, for a long time. You know what I mean? Um, it sounds to me like it's here. And so my question is, if somebody, and I know we can't speak for everybody, but if somebody, me, anybody else is having a deep, deep um, metamorphosis with something that's been a physical obstruction, in their construct, turning that around, transforming that at that level, the cellular, the atomic, you know what I mean? Um, to me, that would be, if it was going to happen anywhere, that's where it would happen. As a result of something like that your light body attributes and characteristics and reality come into focus. Maybe that's what, maybe that's what's so special about this time. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
people getting to that point and listening to you and thinking about Franco and so many other people. It feels like it's now. Now, as in every day, it's a lot closer. Um,
Mm. I,
how do
I
you
two
go ahead?
things that come to mind is like as you were talking, the visual representation that comes to me is like if there's like a new bandwidth of hmm, let's say a new grid system that's starting to come into operation, the old one's kind of gone offline, new one, then it's gonna be creating this immense amount of um release from the physical body that's not in match. And I've seen that happen time and time again of like just it's almost pushing it out. So whether it was stored trapped emotion or memory or old code or implant, I mean, whatever it looks like from the physical, it's literally like pushing it for release so that it can be stepped into the new space. And the experience that I went through last year was what I can only call is my own personal flash experience. I mean, I've had a few. This one was unlike any other, and it radically changed my physical body.
When
And
was
that was
this? And do you mind going deeper on it? As deep as you want to go, but when was this? Last summer?
yeah, 12 months ago. So yeah,
Oh, all right.
yeah. It started at the end of 2023. And it kind of went, it was like the beginning, it was like a reset. And I had been told all year that I was going to go through another Kundalini awakening, but it was going to be more sustainable. I can tell you, like, I mean, who can make those calls and judgment calls, right?
That's a whole. That's like two shows worth of information that you could go. No, but there it is again. I mean, like these. I don't know. I mean, you're obviously very sensitive, and I'm with someone like that. You know what I mean? Like, call it the feminine, whatever. Um,
Mm.
Given everything that's happening, what's going on in that part of your experience? Like your multidimensionality. Are you having, or is anything changing? Are you more by yourself? Is it your voice? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, um, is that where it's at? Is it,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't want to say that you're alone because we can feel them constantly. I mean, that's part of, what seems to be coming in, but are you having the same type of experience as you had all these years, or is it changing?
it is changing. It is opening up. It has been very isolating and alone for quite a lengthy period of time for me in the physical. And I think it is being designed that way because nothing could interrupt with this process that I was kind of working through and making sense of. And to me, it was like I went through what I can only call my Ascension 2.0. I went to this almost like to the very beginning, but tenfold. And, you know, it doesn't make it any easier. Things are changing now. I have beautiful support team and people around me. And I think that part is changing is what I have been deeply guided is now is no longer a time to be inner and isolated, but I have to go out back re-engaging in the world with the new code that I hold. My multidimensionality got switched off for like 9 months. Remember we did that show? Remember we did that show and I said, I don't know, Todd, it's very human right now and I don't like it.
That's probably the last time, yeah. Um,
But that's starting to come back online. But I've been in this dormant phase since that experience because it was so extreme, incomprehensible, to the point where not only was I tangibly experiencing a new earth reality, like I was inhabiting that state in physical, like the interactions and with nature and the connections and the people the random people that were showing up and how, I mean, I could tell you the craziest stories from that.
Keep going.
And then, I mean, I would talk about a particular item of earrings, just random that I didn't even have the possession of it at my parents' house or, you know, And then 2 hours later, I walk into my bedroom and they just materialize on my counter. Like I'm talking like, you know, this was a full experience of being able to be harnessing full frequency and materializing things into matter. And um, but I can talk about the body because my body went through a full reset. Um, Not that I was trying, but I had lost a lot of weight because I think when you go through those energetic experiences, your body almost morphs into like a plasma. I it's hard to quantify into words, but your body goes through such metamorphosis. And I was being shown, like, downloaded like multiple times a day, anything that was not in alignment. I was going back to the bone and the skeletal structure of how, if there was the slightest imbalance, how it had to be corrected. And I was working on with my team being guided, but I was doing the work. It wasn't like I was going to anyone. It was like, right, we have to rebalance and realign like the hips. You were born with hip dysplasia. I was like, what? I don't know about this, but it was like showing me, and it was showing me how to correct it. And
Hmm.
I've never had such freedom in my body to be able to, like, I could have run a marathon. And I can tell you right now, I'm not a marathon runner. Never have been. But it felt like the superhuman component was switched on. If there is a switch, if there is a gene, if there is a full strand of DNA, but I was living that in human form, not conceptually. I mean, there's so much I could talk about. I have, I,
So this is the end of 2023. This is the beginning of 2024. Something
yeah,
like that.
12
Okay.
months ago, 12
Okay.
months ago.
And
Mm.
then at the same time, somewhere between then and recently, um, you were also, no, seriously, you were in this isolation. Your sister coined that word. And oftentimes we think of because we all did it. We all lived in a cave.
Yeah.
So it's not really about, are you living alone in a cave or is there people around or, in what you do? There has seemed to be have been this isolation or private time or something like it's an absolute where you've got to work it out. I try to work a lot of it out in lucid dreams.
Mm, mm,
Um, the other thing that you said, it's one thing obviously to go through it. I can't relate to what you went through in your body, and I can't relate to what Morgan's gone through, right? Um, but I witnessed it. I've seen the energy, and
mm.
and I said that to her. I said, you know what? It looks to me like maybe you're being reset. Well,
Reset.
we've reset our energetic field. We
Mm,
reset our field when we go into our new house and we clean up and we, you know what I mean? Like,
mm,
so it would
mm,
make sense to me that, and that's like, um, the point. Like if your body is being reset and you're moving into that which you experienced, in that time and still are, I'm sure, it literally is like this thing here. You literally went from
mm.
one
Yeah,
grid
that's
system
just it.
to another
Exactly.
one, and
Mm,
we must be doing it pretty fast because of the amount of people that I've been privy to over even like the last 2 3 years and really more, instant healing turnarounds physically, getting off meds, people taking 20 pharmaceuticals for 10 years and then coming off. I mean, there's a lot of evidence in the physicality,
mm,
but to have your entire biological entity reset, like, that's unstoppable. I don't care what's going on out in the world. You know what I mean? We're not even subjected just to this planet, so to speak. I mean, you're talking about something that's way beyond, or at least for me anyway, what I thought, where I thought it might go. But now I see that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think probably, I mean, I still can't put language around that experience. I'm glad that I documented as much as I possibly could. Um, but when I went through it for a period of time and then I got what I say, I got switched off. It was not long after I saw Morgan, before she flew out.
That's because y'all were exchanging codes.
That was like
uh,
I think that was the peak experience, like one of them. I mean, there was many, but it
well,
was shortly after that. It was like, and I kind of knew, I kind of went to bed and it was interesting. I felt the whole room light up in like a electric blue light energy, almost like rain. And it felt, I mean, it felt very cosmic to me. And I thought,
well,
oh, I'm going somewhere tonight. I'm going somewhere. And sure
so
enough, I remember just waking up the next morning and I was like, damn it, I got switched off.
he got switched off. Thank you, Morgan. So when you were going through that period, um, I don't know if I heard you correctly or if I'm hearing something else. Would you say that you had um, uh, multi-dimensional experience in such a fashion that you were physically in another place?
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I mean,
Mm,
there was many components to it. I remember at a lot of points in that I was being able to read and see like high definition screens of seven different simultaneous realities appearing at once. There's a lot to it because I felt like I saw the end of the polarity game and the rebirth of the entire cosmos resetting itself. So there was these
mm,
really vast out there, but then there was like the actual experiences was like walking upon the new earth in real time reality.
mm,
It was and of course when you're at that it literally I felt like I had jumped into a whole alternate reality timeline that was where I believe we're all heading.
right.
But that was set off by like, in the beginning for me, it was like the pop in the head and the Kundalini and the activation. This time it came from within, and there was this feeling where it started from almost like the womb, and it was like this explosions that rippled up and through, and this went on for hours, for days. So there was like that was like part of what
No,
had
no
set it.
wonder you lost all that weight. I'm
Right.
messing with you. Um,
But you know, the morning that I woke up, it was so disorienting because it literally like I had woken up in a different reality. Like
right.
I just, I said switched off, but it was so tangible that I woke up going, what just happened? And I couldn't make sense of what had just happened in the months prior, because it was, operating from here into here. And I just remember sitting outside having my coffee, just going, what? And I, the only conclusion that I could draw upon at that time was maybe I jumped forward ahead to go through a preliminary experience that we will move through as in a collective in time to come, that many people will go through their own version of that. I don't
Mm.
assume for one second that everyone will have the same type of experience, but as you do, I was just like, and I clicked on this podcast, like random, I won't say who or what, but the thing that jumped out in that moment as I was like, what just happened? Like someone was describing from their perspective of how they believe the flash or the ascension, shift, whatever, um, would be like an instantaneous kind of LSD trip of morphing into magical superhuman powers and experience, and then it would be for a prolonged time and then go back to it, a prior state of consciousness to then integrate it all. And it almost felt like it was describing what I had just witnessed. And I was like, damn. So what do I do now? Do I just sit and wait? Like what? Like, because at that point there was just no more. It's been hard to get the level of connection when you have something so hyper definition, and then
Yeah,
the contrast of not having it.
yeah, yeah.
But just in these past few days, that blue electric energy that I was describing has come back around, and I feel like I'm
Hmm.
through the turmoil that I'm and the chaos that I'm living through in my human form. It feels like I'm coming back online in a really strong and powerful connective way, because now like the real work begins. Like I feel like, you know, and so talking, you know, relating back to what we were talking about earlier, Todd, like I really believe that sometimes we like jump ahead, come back, jump down to the inverted, everything goes and looks seemingly the complete opposite to what we may have been shown or intuit or,
Mhm.
desire. So we can then bulldoze through and then have the complete embodiment and alignment of that. So yeah, I'm at ground zero today. But
uh, your your sister had written this earlier, and I knew it was going to come up when you started talking electric blue. We've talked about the blue. I mean, it's all over the place all these years. Uh, the multidimensional blueprint getting activated. This is and some of what you described, in your body. I watched her right over the last, I don't know, month. Um, which as I'm listening to you and then reflecting on what I've witnessed with her, and then the peripheral. I don't know how many women have had stuff going on in their womb,
mm,
but I know there's been quite a few because I've heard them talk about it. And what you described and what I've witnessed with her, like it would only make sense that to cross the feminine, it would start with the womb. It would have to start with the womb. And that's how I feel. Like just amuse myself. What are you doing, Todd? Trying to do this, doesn't have a name or whatever, but that would be it to me.
mm,
Is I don't know, but there's something about stepping into this unknown space,
mm,
and you can't do that hanging on to anything. So if this, what did you call it? Metamorphosis, this transformation is having physical implications of an infinite possibility while we're in form. To me, it would have to happen. We would have to follow universal nature. It would happen in these high frequency, feminine, female embodied, uh, that we know in these communities, and you have a community. It's the vast number of us, you know what I mean? And most of them, 92% of them, you never hear from. But they're the
mm.
comments, they're the messages, they're the emails, they're the support. So if you look at that energetically, I'm just curious. I mean, I wonder how many women in the last whatever 3 months, 6 months, 3 weeks are having something occurring inside their body that's kind of integrating,
Mm. Mm.
the third eye, the dimensional experiences that they've been intuited to, and their physical body at the same time, and what that means.
Yeah. That's perfectly said, Todd, because I think the only way that I can
Hmm. Yeah, and
explain
the other thing
that,
you were talking about, getting shut off. Huh? Go ahead. There's a lag.
yeah, there's
There's
a
a lag.
lag. Hang on. I'm gonna keep going, keep going. I'm
No,
gonna try and
no, you were saying you were talking about how you got shut off, how it came and you got shut off. And as you were talking about, I was like, I wonder if, they talk about walk-ins. So I wonder if what happens is we have a higher aspect come in and comes in and boom, we're aligned and we're at this whole different place, but he's looking around at the the human part of it going, what the fuck is going on?
well,
So
I
maybe
that's
that's
the
part.
perfect description because I like through that, it was deeply personal, but what I can share was like I saw and aligned with all the dimensional aspects of me going from the human all the way up,
Right.
and it's like they all kind of collapsed into my physical vessel. So if we're talking about the higher self, it was all the aspects of the higher self merged into one frequency bandwidth that tried to like come into the human suit. And that's like it, being switched off, I think, had to preserve my human body because it was about to fry out. Like,
Mm,
and it
mm.
was because I remember parts of that, and it's sketchy now, but parts of that was like the basic human functionality was like, what? Like laundry? What? Like making an income? Like we're infinitely abundant. you know, like but I think much respect to the love and the dedication of the very few people who were around me that tried to support but just had no comprehension of what 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 was going on. But
Did
you
they
know,
think you were nuts?
yeah, yeah, you could say that.
Okay. No, no,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, sometimes, and it's so weird because listening to you speak about early 24 and even what happened when it got shut off, and I can see these things, witnessing and experiencing. And on the linear scale, on the timeline, the chronology, it's a little bit different, but it's all kind of the same space. But the isolation, you know what I mean? The being in your own thoughts kind of thing. Um, it can take 20 minutes. It can take, but it's being present and doing that. So many of the things that, I'll speak for myself, but like as you're describing these climaxes and then these, you get shut down, whatever, we have these in little ways and big ways. Eh, The more I land, it's weird. The more human it is. And I don't mean that like in the finite
Mhm.
human, I mean it in a different way. And it's dictated, or it seems to be, by these very basic, thoughts, words, and actions. Like I think you mentioned integrity. Like it's literally like, I'm going to eat this. It could be a piece of fruit, it could be a plant, it could be whatever. And you go, wait a minute, let me vet this. Let me see, you know what I mean? Or somebody wants something, or you want something, or how you communicate. It's kind of cool. And I think a lot of us have experienced this. I know I have, like with my mom and some of my siblings, and I know Morgan has, and I've heard others, how these um disconnections with our blood family have come back, and at
Mhm.
least, you know what I mean, had like a peace, or even a prolonged and renewed connection. Like I believe in that stuff. I believe in what you're talking about, and also the importance of what actually happened, which you've always been very open about. Um, so this is your last 12, 13 months.
Mhm.
And the last 2 weeks have been a grind.
Mhm.
And you
Easily
you know,
optimistic.
well, I mean, you're no, I'm just saying you're stepping into this space with all of us, and you're right. You're at the most raw you have been. I think if we take a poll, I wonder how many people might feel the same. This is part of it, I guess.
Last night. I'm going through a phase that I can't really speak about in depth, but it's about love, it's about heartbreak, it's about the divine, the connection and separation or physical, temporary temporary separation. And I've been through this before, but not in this circumstance, not in these ways. And it's new terrain for me to navigate. But I know that, when we get separated from loved ones for whatever circumstance and reason, it strengthens all the non-physical components of the connection. And I know, like, you and Morgan have been through that, and I'm walking through my own version. And in circumstances is outside of two people's control,
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
not a, you know, but the the writing of, like, okay, well, I can't physically pick up the phone right now, so I'm gonna write, I'm gonna connect, I'm gonna do all these things. And I think last night I thought, well, I'm just gonna do daily journals. I haven't written in a really long time, Todd, and writing is my way of connecting through the higher self, to be a channel. It always has been. And I started to write. I thought, I'll just write like what so when the time comes, I can hand it over. And there's like these journal entry, like, and I thought it was going to be so mundane of, like, okay, well, I went to the beach today, and, and all this code streamed through last to me last night of just how powerful the will of the human connection and desire, and, like, what love can traverse in, you know, obstacles or challenges or unthinkable circumstances. But it's love and the power of the heart that breaks through the code of all of it. And, I had to come because I've been in the depths of the devil and the details of circumstances. And I had to push through that threshold to get into the higher, like, when you can just, like your picture, like, pop out and look down and look in and around. And I don't know what happened last night, but I wrote. I was like, I'm just gonna write a quick 20 minutes, go to bed. And the next thing I knew, I looked at the clock, and like 2.5 hours had passed, and I'm still writing, still writing.
Wow. 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 The yeah, like another way to say it for me anyway, as I'm listening to you, is like the highest antenna is the human antenna.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know we drop back one way or another. We have dropped back, and maybe we come out quicker or whatever the case is. But the human antenna, nothing knows more about being human or too human or overgiving or overtaking or all the other programs than the human part of us. It's really weird,
Mm.
but it would be so cool if, like, um, or I would say it this way, as it starts to happen, and we actually are experiencing beyond all shadows of a doubt this new world that we've talked about and that we've been guided about and downloaded about. And it's like this, I've said it before, but it sounds better now, like a Forrest Gump bubble.
mm,
Like, I don't
mm,
know, or where there's more, like higher frequencies can see us, but we can't see them kind of thing, or like it feels like, I mean, if the body is being reset, and I think there's a lot of evidence of that, and not to mention the children that are coming in the world, like their biology, their makeup. So if it's a field of energy, and the percentages of this neighborhood are going up dramatically, yeah, I often think, man, I'm tired. We've worked hard, all of us. I can speak for all of us. And then that same little voice comes in and says, in its own way, chill the fuck out. You know what I mean? You almost like to the point where I feel that everything we did from 2012 to 2024, we actually did it.
mm,
And those rhythms that we developed and those identities that we talked about during that period from our multidimensional downloads, etc., um, that's why they're dying. Because the field has been changed. We're just not recognized. I don't want to sound negative, but like we're becoming accustomed and assimilated to it and how
mm.
it works. And so, having said that, I think this is a good question for you, and I'd love to hear your answer because, like many of us, I think we're in the same place, which is creating is a totally different thing now.
Mhm.
Like it's a whole different ball game. Like for instance, we used to say, well, you can't do anything for money because energetically it's not going to come back to you. Well, now it's like you can't even have it in your field. You need to be doing something that, offers that flow, right? Of yourself. I mean, and it's not etched in stone. There's not an owner's manual. I firmly believe, and in discussions with Morgan, we talk about the only way to find out is to give it a shot.
Mm, mhm. Yeah.
And it sounds so human and so basic and so corny. But I think you said this a while ago. Um, one, you're realizing when you go through it, there's something huge happening on the other side. So, what are your
Mm.
thoughts on creating now in this new space? If you have any intel, we'd love to hear it.
I have a lot because it's all about creation and co-creation this year. It's about truth and illumination and justice and metamorphosis of the body, but it is really about the code of creation because I feel like to me, it feels like we're rewriting the scripts almost daily in this. It's like we've all gone to the new earth through the downloads, through the perception, through the connections, through the experiences. And we're right now in this uncharted, unscripted terrain that we're forging forward in. And the only way through that is through the power of creation that we can do in physical, in the tangible, in however we, and, creation, creativity and creation is what connects us to our divinity.
Mm,
And because we are embodying that in the human form and flesh, I think it's the most powerful tool. But it's different now. And that's where a lot of people are feeling lost and in limbo state because the way that we create moving forward is like changing radically.
mm,
And it's like finding that footing. And I remember going back to like I can only relate to what I've been through to try and apply some of the tools that help me get through to create what I've created all these years. And now I feel like I'm doing it again. I don't fully know but I know the power is in the connection and the creation. And I think it's really ripe in that space. And I have a very beloved, dear soul sister friend staying with me right now. It just so happens that on your timeline, you're about to go through this cataclysmic and you've been isolated and pretty much alone for, the best part of, 30 months. And then just someone, messages, hey, I'm gonna be in your town, can I stay for a while? And I mean, I'm so grateful for her presence. And she's someone who's worked in humanitarian aid for like over 20 years, worked in every war circumstance you could possibly think of in stories.
Wow.
One thing that has been so profoundly imprinted in my mind, if there was only one takeaway that I've heard from her, which there's been many, but when she's been in places like Gaza, and her mantra was in the destruction, and I hope I'm quoting this correctly of her, but in the chaos and destruction I create.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah.
She's like a monk.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of that. We had a lady on here from Australia um, years ago, and she had a client that had been in sex trafficking, and since she was like 8, and she escaped like at 21. They got her back 3 years later, and then she escaped again, a few years later. And I said, yeah, what are these people like? And she said, they are the most beautiful souls you've ever seen. The woman walked in full compassion of everyone that ever violated. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
this is the same thing. It's it sounds crazy. Everything tells us you're crazy, but I think for whatever's going on, whether it be the last 13 months or 13 weeks, there is, like you said, like it's a different set of every day in a
Every
positive
day,
way, in a positive way. And
every
it
day.
does require uh, intention and focus and self-responsibility, in the physical, mental, the whole thing. Um, and to me, I don't know. I've never had an issue with speaking publicly, um, doing things, taking initiative, grabbing a microphone, whatever the case is. But I got to tell you, over the last few weeks, every time I've come on, I have this, and it's starting to become more familiar. But I
Mm.
have this like butterflies in my heart thing. And you're going, oh my God, who do you think you are? Because the voices still come now and then. But um, I just I just feel like that being in a space like this, talking to somebody else, talking to a group, uh, opening up is the most powerful thing we can do.
The power is in the humility of the human experience.
Like your friend, like her range of polarity experienced is so broad. And if that's the case, then that must mean something, that if we try to stay in the box here, we're going to, the 0 point's going to be like this little pin, but this is what we've done. She's
Yeah.
she's all of us. You know what I mean? We're all I've said this before, valiant souls. We've come to this, but we are. And it's, to me, it's becoming more obvious that something beyond all the narratives, beyond all the goings on, is really landing. And I
Mm.
don't know what it is. I don't know if it's galactic, angelic. I don't know what the hell it is. But it's nice to be able to be taking these baby steps on the other side and saying, "Oh, you're here too, huh?" Yeah.
I think there's a lot of peace. And I think when you go through those periods of isolation, and, it's not that I was completely alone, but it felt like that no matter the presence of whoever was around or I was connected with. But it when you're going through those periods and trying to work it out, you really do think that you're the only one.
You're right.
And then, and that's
Right.
why the work that you do, Todd, and just
Yeah.
getting here is so important because whoever is meant to watch this
Yeah.
can receive it and go, "Oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just
Yeah. Yeah. I think
they."
yeah, that's what the isolation Morgan talked about, you're talking about. Um, you're right. It feels like, I mean, I can't even believe, like, if I go back the last couple of weeks, there was a period, over 2 or 3 days that I was like, man, I seriously, I know we've had this talk before, but get me the fuck out of here. This doesn't make any sense. Why is there, you know what I mean? And the whole time I know they're just, it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall and just falling off, but um, yeah,
Like
there's,
you,
huh?
Todd, with my friend here and all that we've
Mm.
gone through together and how she supported me. I mean, there'd been many times we've been sitting out on my balcony and I'm like, this is a prison planet and I don't like it. And I just need to find a fucking exit right now.
And then the
And then
soul
I can
comes
come
in, the
out of
soul,
that space. Yeah.
and the soul comes in and said, well, you created it. Well,
Yeah.
look, your friend, that the one that your friend, I mean, that's what she speaks to. It's like, I can remember, and it's not even on the same level, but I would go out to the beach here and take some time for myself while this was starting to happen over the last couple of weeks, and I would look across and I think, okay, envision a giant mushroom cloud, an atomic bomb, and a tsunami's coming to get you. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, I'm running back to the house. I'm gonna take my clothes off, try to talk Morgan into it, and we'll jump in the bed as the world comes to an end, kind of thing. But the possibilities that are occurring, I mean, you're talking like this friend of yours. If that's what brought her to that point, like how much more can you embody
Hmm.
for her to be in that space where she says what we're all hearing and we've heard over the years, but it's becoming more and more tangible. Um, where you create this, right? I mean, God, it sounds almost like insensitive. You know what I mean? Um, and to me, that's part of the challenge too, for me, has been at some point, do I need to let go of all of this, as in concern for other people and their feelings and my children, and it's like you have a higher capacity and awareness and divine love, yet from a human standpoint, you're an asshole. You're inconsiderate, but it's I think it goes along with the idea that we're all stay in your own lane. Like, we've all chosen this. Respect the other person, the mirror, as a soul that they are. Kind of like what I heard today. What I told you was like, I don't want to be judged. And they're like, well, then stop judging. Okay. Okay. Well, I guess that means staying in my own lane, because we spend enough time beating up ourselves. I'm not even talking about judging other people. Yeah, it's nice to connect. Yeah, it's good to see
Uh,
you.
I
Really
just
is.
love you, you and Todd. Uh, I love you and Morgan so
You can
dearly.
you can just call us Torgan. Somebody said that the other day. We just referred to you as
Todd.
Torgan. I think it was a couple. We had this beautiful couple on from Bulgaria. Oh my God. Probably the best couple podcast I've ever done. They were hilarious. You should watch it. It was they were straight, and that's another thing. The truth frequency, the raw, you know, is like so powerful. Like, you get a download and say, okay, we're going to do this and it's going to activate this and this. But when we enter that space, and I'm sure they were nervous, um, it does light, we light everybody up. We light each other up.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
The
sure
book of the
do.
human. I
Here
was
we
thinking
are.
about naming this I'm not going to, but naming this podcast capital S, capital O, little U, little L, human. Like so human. With a little
Yeah,
soul connotation.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I love that. But I think that's where we're at. And one thing that has come to me since all of that has transpired, all I can do is be present in the moment and do every human action with conscious intention,
Mm,
purpose,
well,
and um, and keep creating, because in that it opens up the field of infinite possibilities. And I do believe in, right now it feels like there are atomic bomb explosion catalysts going on everywhere. That's what it feels like to me. If I feel into the field, it just feels like there's just, but it's in that energy that allows expansion, breakthroughs, growth, and miracles. And that blue frequency that I was talking about,
mm,
I was told many years ago that specific blue frequency is the energy that transforms the very cellular human metamorphosis into the divine structure that we're reforming, returning back into. And it is also the frequency of miracles. And I
wow.
think,
Yeah. Azul, blue.
yes,
Let me ask you one last thing. And you don't have to be specific. Don't be specific. But yeah, creating is the deal. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's like, okay, taking responsibility. Well, now I'm gonna take responsibility for what I create, etc. But from a creative standpoint, somebody that has done a lot of stuff out there for the communities and such, do you have any idea what you're gonna do? Do you know what you're gonna create, or is it just like, hey, Todd just messaged me. You want to do a show? Because that's how it feels for me. It feels very, I feel like a pony that just got birthed out of, when they're all wet, like a, and they're trying to walk around. But no, really, do you have any idea of how you're gonna proceed?
no, no, I
Mm,
don't. I have ideas that pop in, and I've had a lot of them.
mm.
Um, I feel like it's going to be a bit like what you're navigating through is like just get going and the details will work itself out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I feel like, because you mentioned and so pertinent, like the stories, who we've been, all that has kind of died. So there hasn't even been a desire for me to create because there's like nothing I'm interested in anymore. Like, I, I don't know about you, but to me, I can't even go on YouTube anymore because there's nothing that I haven't explored that even sparks an interest. But I know that there are all these people out there that have incredible code and experiences that is fascinating, that's new, that's
Right.
revolutionary, that's frontline. And I think that's why I know we're on the precipice of a huge change. And so, yeah, to answer your question, no, I don't know. I did I did get, I get these snippets. I'm just trying to do more group work at the
Yeah,
moment. So I'm doing a couple of things and just feeling it out, and
yeah.
it's the people who have attended have really enjoyed it. So I'll just keep doing it until it evolves. But, I did get a message a few days ago that in the middle of the year, I should do 100 days of podcast. And the thought of that right now in my fragile, vulnerable state to commit to 100 podcasts in 100 days, I don't think. But hey, who knows? Who knows what terrain we're walking into? So Yeah,
Well, you know how it
nothing.
is when your soul nudges you, there's no going back. So you have the gift of prophecy. So, but no, I get what you're saying too, because I love to write. I love to write. I love to rhyme, write poems, and stuff I just never even put out. Just so many things I started and never finished, but I got a whole bunch of them now. I get like 5 lines, and I'm like, and all that stuff comes in like, who do you think you are? That's no good. You can't rhyme, you know. But yeah, it's that. Uh, it's what you've been talking about, what you're exemplifying, and
Mm,
that's the right answer. I mean, to me, I think part of the reason, and not taking anything away from, look, if we're being reset, then it would, and it's a universal thing. It would only make sense that the internet would be reset, YouTube would be reset. Everything. Look what Trump's doing. I mean, it's not in the stories; it's in the energy. So, um, yeah, I wish you the best. I can't wait till we collaborate again.
and
My heart goes out to you with whatever you're going through, because I know you do it not just for yourself, but you do it for the collective and the true Trinity energy. But if we just take a moment with me and everybody just take a breath, and if we could just take a moment and join hands in the circle of life in this eternal moment, the only moment that we ever have, and acknowledge uh, our journeys, our energy field, our connection, the work we've done, and the place we've arrived to, which is changing very rapidly. Stand tall, keep shining, and yeah, keep doing you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alisha. I'll see you later. You look fantastic.
we'll
Take
be in touch.
care.
And
All right.
just thank you to everyone. Yeah, we're all here. It's showtime. Let's go.
I'm going to bed. It'll be, isolation time.